When Armored Core 6 got announced last year at the Game Awards, tons of people had one question on their mind: would it be a Souls game? And by tons of people, I mean people who haven't played previous Armored Core games, which includes me. As months went by, trailers dropped and more info came out, it became quite clear that Armored Core 6 was going to be a traditional Armored Core game through and through. On release, the game was loved by fans of the series and newcomers alike, and the game is personally my favorite fromsoftware game. I think lots of people rate this game highly as one of the better recent titles that they've played, and having recently finished Armored Core 6, 100%ed it and platinumed and done everything, I really want to keep playing the franchise and think about what the next possible game might look like, and that's what I did. I channeled one of my best thoughts I had from the game that I wish the game could improve upon, and that was, I wish that I could explore more of Rubicon 3, the setting of Armored Core 6. Don't get me wrong, the game does have its secrets, hidden areas, and alternate paths you can take as a form of exploration, but trying to go to the outskirts of Institute City, for example, there's just a red barrier blocking me off, so I decided to think of a way in how Armored Core could improve upon its exploration, and that led me to the idea of an open world Armored Core game. Before you say that Armored Core can't go open world, I want you to hear my idea out, as it seems quite drastic, which it is, but I think I've got some decent ideas that could lead to some interesting discussion. Also, just have to give a heads up, I am new to the Armored Core series, and this is a perspective from a guy who has only played Armored Core 6 and enjoyed it so much that I just want to keep talking about it. But first things first, if Armored Core were to go open world, that would lead to a complete structural overhaul of how Armored Core works. I've watched tons of videos of Armored Core series both before and after Armored Core 6's launch, and Armored Core is a mission-based game, which simply means you load into a pre-made level, complete the objective, and go on to the next level. And these levels are quite big in size, creating a sense of scale, factored by the size of the Armored Core itself, and the mega structures you pass by. Also, in between missions, you are given access to the garage, where you can purchase new parts and change the loadout of your Armored Core. And with this brief description of what makes Armored Core as good as it is, we have three aspects, minus the narrative, as I'll save that for a later section, that make Armored Core: missions, customization, and scale. If I were to create an open world AC game, these three aspects must be present in the core structure of the game. So let's start off with the first aspect of the trio, the missions. Implementing straightforward missions into an open world game might seem like a tough ask. For one, it has to be a mission, meaning you have to stick onto the path from point A to point B, whilst also factoring the usage of the open world, giving you time to go out into the world to explore, collect items, and do side missions. You know, the simplest idea would be to simply copy a similar structure to Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Solid 5 has two open worlds for you to explore, and you can simply drop into the world and do the missions as told, or drop in and do side ops before making your way across the map to the mission point. This would be the simplest option, as it combines both the mission-based structure and open world exploration. But if I just made a video saying Armored Core could implement the structure of Metal Gear Solid 5, that wouldn't be fun. So let's take the scale of Elden Ring's open world and try to Armored Coreify it. Taking the missions of Armored Core 6, the main goal is to basically make your way across Rubicon, gaining the trust of the mega corporations, continue deeper into Rubicon till you make a choice of either siding with Rubicon or against it. So if we take this same approach, which is going from point A to point B with lots of other missions in between, it could work. Across the world, there could be tons of bases, watch points, and structures that could be occupied by one of the many factions across the planet. Maybe going close to one faction's base would have them be on guard, either asking you to join them on a mission or asking you to leave, giving you the option to either mow them all down or join them. And since you're an independent mercenary, there could be a reputation system in play here. Taking down certain bases nets you bonus points of other factions and more aggression from others. Of course, you can't just go around taking control of all the bases, as you need to have a core mission at heart, which is where the job of the handler could come in. With your handler wanting you to achieve an ultimate goal, so to speak of, he could give you the locations of where to go next to do the next big mission for a certain faction. But maybe if you are at odds with this faction, maybe they don't want to hire you, leading your handler to give you a different mission altogether, and that could be the loop, where your morals can also conflict with the goals of your handler's objective. If you want to side with Group A for as long as possible, but you keep sabotaging them in side missions, that could leave them annoyed, cutting you out, and maybe a new companion joins you. And as for side quests, Armored Core 6 touched lightly upon them in the form of alternate missions. Take the mission of killing Swinburne, where he gives you the choice of letting him live or killing him for the mission. Imagine this in the open world setting, where going with the first option could net you another side quest from him if you meet him later on at another base, and characters can commonly radio you across the world, maybe asking you for help along the way. You might also be passing by a pretty standard base, only for a friendly AC to radio anyone out there for help, as they have suddenly been overwhelmed and attacked. That's how I could see the open world mission structure work. Have a massive world with tons of bases occupied by factions, with a goal from your main companion leading you in the right direction, with a reputation system that can alter further missions and world dynamic between the factions and yourself, with the help of tons of side quests. And as you get good pay, new weapons, and armored core parts, That means you have to upgrade somehow. Around the planet, my idea is there will be multiple hangars where you can upgrade the operating system of your armored core and deck it out with new parts. To make it more convenient, it would be a global hangar where if you buy parts in one station, it would still be in one that might be 300 kilometers away. These garages would either be independent or faction controlled. Independent ones don't have the best gear that you can purchase, but have a wider range of merch to buy, whereas a hangar controlled by a faction would have weaponry that is made by them and more specialized in one area than another, but in turn would limit what they could offer you to purchase. It would give an incentive, especially on the first playthrough, to try out as many weapons as possible from all the different hangars, creating a very varied playstyle. The hangars will also serve another purpose, that being the way to fast travel. Call this a lazy idea, but NieR Automata has the exact form of fast travel that I think would work perfectly for this type of game. In NieR Automata, to fast travel, you have to access one of these access points and move to another access point that is available at the moment. So in a possible open world Armored Core game with maybe some next gen AC augmentation, you could transfer your consciousness between these hangars, and to add an extra challenge, some hangars could be under attack, leaving them inaccessible until you rid them of their attackers. It's not much, but I think having the hangars function as places with varying loot and as a fast travel point could work very well. Naturally, if there are multiple access points across the world, that means that the world will in fact be big. This is where I could see the biggest hurdle in creating an open world Armored Core game. You see, Armored Core 6 did such a good job at creating the stunning backdrops and level layouts that felt bleak yet beautiful. Like they were constructed with purpose, and because they are levels, they used lots of textures in the inaccessible background to further add to the scale of the world. The problem is that if you make it open world, that means that everything you see you need to be able to go to. If we take Elden Ring for example, sure, you could basically go to all of the map, but it takes time because you have to primarily go there on foot. In an Armored Core, you are going to be able to fly anywhere. If you spawn in a valley, chances are you're going to be able to fly out of there, making everything accessible from the start, with no real progressive feeling. Another issue is that because the levels are constructed to both give a sense of scale when moving around them and adding an illusion to the background textures, the level designers would have to create worlds that load fast and look good. For the second issue, I don't really have any solution for that, but for the first one, relating to the sense of progression, you can be locked to a default build for a decent while at the start of the game. A build that limits the length you can boost, your damage output, overall health, and speed, which can act as a tutorial of sorts, slowly getting the player used to both their tools and the environment around them and how to traverse it as best as possible. When you later progress in the game, find some hangars with new upgrades, then the game gradually opens up more and more, and the first hurdle is solved. And now for the hardest aspect that I think would have to change a lot is the presentation of the narrative. Armored Core story, at least in the case of 6, is presented through mission briefings, radio calls in the hangar, and through radio chatter during gameplay, and of course your typical data logs. Could this simply be transferred over into an open world? Well, it could, but I think that would do more harm than good to the story. For one, the radio calls in the hangar between characters other than you, they wouldn't exist unless you have a stealth mission of sorts to eavesdrop on them. Mission briefings can still take place as usual, albeit not from the hangar, but rather inside your visor in a vantage point where the mission will take place. Although you will miss a bit of the handlers or companion comments right before deployment, a lot of personality and story can still be presented through these simple briefings. And radio chatter, well, that will stay the same, so with a world so large, you're also going to have to talk with NPCs and other ways to learn more about the world, so how will that be done? I think this can happen through something I mentioned earlier, with eavesdropping on nearby enemies being the primary source of experiencing the story, because if we have actual dialogue options and stuff like the alternate choices we have in Armored Core 6, that would constantly be a hindrance and would break the pacing of the game and halt any momentum going forward, having to stop the Armored Core regularly. That leaves it with mission briefings, companions and radio chatter, eavesdropping, and data logs. Is this enough for a sufficient Armored Core story? Yes, but I just think that making a story in an open world is still a challenge. I'm not from software, so I don't know what kind of story they could create in a scenario like this, but I think they'd make a great one. And finally, after all this, my suggestions and ideas on how to make an open world Armored Core game, would it still feel like an Armored Core game? Well, I think so. The game might be far larger in play area and scale, but I still think it could work. If missions are open-ended, constantly evolving with the choices you make and how the factions react to you, it could create a very dynamic world that responds to every action you do. The hangar idea I think adds to the versatility of how you want to play and could influence how you may act towards the certain factions at play here. And finally, although I think the narrative might be the toughest part to get right, it can still work with the same tools that are present in Armored Core 6. I've just gotta say, these are all my thoughts from only having played Armored Core 6, so do forgive me if anything I've said might have already been attempted in a previous AC game, but other than that, I would be pretty excited if FromSoftware decided to make an open world Armored Core game, and I would be there for it, day one. with that, welcome to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video that is a bit longer than usual. I think, I'm not sure as I'm recording this right now. And although I said in my last Armored Core video that it would be a long while until the next one, I just enjoyed Armored Core 6 so much that I wanted to keep talking and making videos about it, really. I just love this game so much. But what do you think of an open world Armored Core game? Could it work? Why or why not? Leave your comments down below and a like or dislike if you enjoyed or didn't enjoy the video. If you want to see more from me, a subscribe also comes a long way. With that said, I'm now going to start my third Cyberpunk 2077 playthrough in anticipation for Phantom Liberty dropping next week and the recent 2.0 update having dropped yesterday, if the timing of this video is right. Who knows, you might be getting a Cyberpunk 2077 video sooner than expected. That's all from me. Thanks again for watching, have a good rest of your day, night and week, and with that, Storm out.